Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Hope you're all doing well. Big up Levin this morning on the morning show. Goldbridge back in the afternoon slot. How are we doing? We're going to be talking about Solskjaer. Solskjaer is back. The photos are there of Ollie back in Old Trafford, Old Trafford, Carrington. He'll be back there soon. Obviously lots and lots of reaction to that, but also spoke to somebody this morning about the situation at Manchester United, which I want to speak in, and I think it says on the thumbnail, out of control, and ultimately that is what Solskjaer is at the moment. If he was the bus driver and he was at the wheel, he's now sat on the back seat, and we're out of control as a football club. Players, an article this morning in the ESPN, numerous players saying they've been misled by Solskjaer in the summer. I think we all know that, but how does he not salvage this situation? I don't think the situation is salvageable at all. But interestingly, the spin still continues. I think we're spinning out of control, and I think that you've got Andy Cole, ex-player, coming out today saying that the criticism of Ollie isn't very nice. You've got the mainstream media attacking Roy Keane for criticising Harry Maguire, and so the spin continues. And I think that the reality is we're just going to see a lot more of that spin. The club is not in a great situation. Now, I was speaking to somebody this morning, and basically the situation I asked was, well, look, you've got contacts in the club. What's going on in the club at the moment? Because as fans, it looks like the big plan was to leave the fans to moan for 9 days and then come back and pretend nothing's happened. And ultimately, what I was told is that was probably the strategy of United, not to face up to the problem, but they're also looking at other things. They're not convinced by Solskjaer, but they're sort of stuck with Solskjaer because of what the way I would explain it from the conversation I had this morning. If you want an analogy for it, it's like, well, you're in an unhappy marriage. You don't really want to be with the person you're married to, but you've made the vows. It's like you're still very early in your marriage, and it's like, let's try and work our way through it for the kids. And we as the kids are the fans, and we're probably saying, to be honest with you, I'd rather you break up. But the reality is that is what United are doing. They know that this is not the right relationship, but they can't find somebody else to go and marry or do whatever they want to do with. So they're just going to stay at home with Ollie for the moment. Now, that's not a great situation for us, the fans. It's not a great situation for the club to put themselves in. It's an even worse situation for Solskjaer, because when you decide to stick with Solskjaer, the club aren't sure of him. The fans aren't sure on him. Well, they are sure on him. They don't want him. The media know he shouldn't be there. The players probably know this as well. For Solskjaer, it's out of control and it's mission impossible. And, this morning they're talking about, I'll actually tell you what the article was, because I think it's a good point to bring in at this point when we talk about players. This was from ESPN. Donny van der Beek, Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard, Dean Henderson, Eric Bailly, Diego Dalot, Juan Mata, Alex Telles have all complained that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not rotating his squad enough after he promised to give them more minutes this season. Well, look, you could add Jadon Sancho into that list as well, but I think that, when you go through that list, Van der Beek, Martial, Lingard, Henderson, Bailly, Dalot, Mata, Telles, all complaining that they've not been given the game time they were promised. I can pretty much guarantee each one of those were promised game time. I don't agree with them all getting game time. I mean, Henderson over De Gea shouldn't happen, but definitely there was this rumour that Henderson was going to be the number one goalkeeper. So, yeah, he has been misled. Van der Beek's been misled. Mata, why did he sign a contract? He must have been misled. Eric Bailly signed a new contract. He would have been free this summer. Why would you sign a new contract? Jesse Lingard could have gone to West Ham. Lingard must be kicking himself. He was star player almost at West Ham. They're in the top four, and he's sat on the bench at United. He's made a right error there, but he must have been misled. Telles as well. Anthony Martial. There's loads of players that have been misled. And the thing is, the obvious thing would be to say, oh, you know what? He could pick those players against Watford at the weekend. But to do that, you've got to drop Ronaldo. You've got to drop Bruno. You've got to drop Rashford. You've got to drop Greenwood. You've got to drop Fred. You've got to drop McTominay. You've got to drop Shaw. You've got to drop Maguire. You've got to drop De Gea. The changes are not... He's coming back. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is back, by the way. We've seen the photos this morning. But, if he'd have actually trained the players last week, he would have been training Lingard and Van der Beek and Sancho, and maybe would have seen something in them that he thinks, I want to start them. Now, that doesn't mean he won't use them against Watford, but everybody's back training together now. I think only the England players will be back tomorrow, but everybody's back together now. McTominay's back, Ronaldo's back, Bruno's back. So... the situation is untenable. You wonder how we're going to roll from here. The fact is we shouldn't be rolling from here, but I wouldn't say we have to move past that assumption or mindset. But he's got a really difficult job on his hands. Like there's next to no patience left for him, and that's across the board as well, and the players. And he's got to come back and inspire from a position of total weakness. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it happens. Pranay says the next few matches we can watch without much stress. If we win the games, nothing better than that, and that's what I hope for. But if we lose, then we will win in the long run. Surely we can't perform worse, says Pranay. Well, there is this belief that United want to get through to the end of the season. I mean, let's talk about the managerial situation at the moment. Solskjaer returns, Zidane and Rodgers wait, and that is very much the situation. Brendan Rodgers, without being categorically sure on this, the indications are that Manchester United have spoken to Brendan Rodgers in some capacity and that he would be willing to come to Manchester United. The safest bet is that he'd like to come in the summer, which is what most managers would like to do. But that isn't always the best scenario for everybody. I think United ideally would like to see Pochettino sacked by Paris Saint-Germain and get Pochettino at some point, and I think they would jump on that chance if they could do. But that would mean sticking with Solskjaer for as long as possible. Now, people say, well, that's not possible to get to the summer with Solskjaer. I mean, it shouldn't be possible, but it shouldn't be possible that he's still here now. So, as I said, you look at the next few games, we've got games every 3 or 4 days. That takes him to Christmas. You get to Christmas, you're into January, February. He might be able to limp on till then. My concern with Solskjaer limping on till January, until the summer, is that they'll just go, let's try again. And stick with him because it's cheap. If they can't sack him in November, why would they sack him in May? So I think maybe United are looking to get to the summer. I wouldn't be surprised with that. But, the same problems that have been trodden and said so many times is, well, Pogba's gone in the summer. Van der Beek will be gone in January. Ronaldo might leave if we don't get Europa League football. The damage done by keeping Solskjaer could be really catastrophic for this football club. I mean, I think if you look at it, before we move on, if you look at the situation of the football club, I don't think it's in a very good situation. I personally think protests shouldn't have stopped. I don't know what the protests stopped for at the end of the day. And I'm not just talking about people turning up at the ground. I mean, there was a lot of things going on in relation to... lots of things were going on. And I'm not going to mention what they are because I don't know whether the club knew they were going on. So, they might get resurrected. We don't know. But lots of things were going on and it all ground to a halt. And it ground to a halt because the season ended and United started buying Sancho and Varane and people got, Ronaldo, and people forgot about the protests. And also we had this meeting with Joel Glazer, which, nobody really knows what all that was all about, but it seemed to shut it all down. Then we hit the start of the season. We were like, we've got Ronaldo. This is the perfect storm. Let's go and deliver. Last dance season, everything la-di-da. And it's gone wrong. But we could be back in a worse situation than we were in May, next May. And I don't want to be scaremongering, but we could be in a worse situation in May this next year than we were in this year. And people say, well, we won't be because of a Super League. But I'm talking about Man United. We could, things could go very, very, very wrong very, very quickly. You lose Ronaldo, you lose Pogba, you lose Van der Beek. You've got to spend money to replace those players. How much would it cost to replace Pogba, Van der Beek and Ronaldo? We got Ronaldo cheap, apart from his wages. Pogba's walking out the door for free. It costs a lot of money and we need a CDM. So you could see the situation getting a lot worse than it is now. And I think that's the challenge for United. Everything Ricky said about his team shape, Martial's quality and how the limitations of Mace's Markham turned out to be true. Visionary and genius is a... Yeah, but Ricky's fantastic. But Ricky also said that, doesn't rate Bruno. Doesn't rate, yeah. What's your opinion on Manchester Evening News? I mean, to be honest, he has got a lot right. He said about Sancho as well. You see, this is the advantage of experience. What's your opinion on Manchester Evening News saying they've not made a decision yet? Says, well, I disagree with that. I said that last night. Manchester United have made a decision on Solskjaer because he's back in training today. The decision after the Man City game was to sack him or stick with him. They've stuck with him. The decision is made. That decision can change, but they've definitely stuck with him. But the interesting thing for me is, and I just want to drop this in their head before we talk about this nonsense that's going on in the mainstream media again. Oh, also as well, can I just say, I need all your support today. I am playing on my FIFA career mode the Europa League final as Manchester United. It might be the only final you see United play this season. So I'm going to be live. The final is going to kick off at about 4 p.m. UK time. So the stream will start at about 3:30, but it'll be 4 p.m. when the final kicks off. It's on Goldbridge TV on Twitch. I'll be tweeting it out. But it would be nice to get some support. There is talk that Goldbridge is going to put the suit on for the final. We're playing Chelsea in the Europa League final on my FIFA career mode. So it will be atmospheric. You don't even need to like FIFA. It will just be an event. So please do tune in. Goldbridge TV on Twitch. I'll be tweeting it out off at Mark Goldbridge just while that's in my head. Because I'm nervous. I'm nervous. If we don't win it, we won't be in the Champions League next year because we've just finished 5th. Sack Goldbridge, yes, but it's a computer game. If Ollie gets fired, I hope the next manager has to convince the team to come. The owners will have to give in to their demands, transfer budget, real director of football. Well, that's probably one of the reasons they don't want to get rid of him, Michael, to be honest. Also, we've just pinned this to the top of the live chat. Remember, if you're a worldwide fan and you want to get one of our Christmas jumpers, this is exclusive. It's the Goldbridge design, but we have got other ones. I had one on last night. We do ship worldwide, but you need to get those orders in early because if you haven't got them in by the 24th of November, we can't guarantee that you'll get it before Christmas. So get your orders in now if you're worldwide or UK. Links in the chat or the video description. So. Ricky doesn't like how Bruno loses the ball too easily. It's not unfair criticism at all. Again, some he noticed before me. Still love Bruno though, says A. Yeah, but he's wrong on Bruno. He's wrong. I've had this chat with him loads of times. He can have his opinion, but Bruno Fernandes is the most consistent player of Manchester United since we brought him. God knows where we'd be with Bruno. If you look at what happened to United since Bruno came in at the end of January, when we played Wolves, to where we are now, we finished 3rd and 2nd. Like he's a massively integral part. And also the thing about Bruno, I mean, even this season alone, he's pulled off 2 assists that are probably only De Bruyne in that league can do. Absolutely amazing footballer. So anyway, look, let me talk to you about this before I want to talk about some of this mainstream media nonsense backing the captain and the manager with a sympathy vote. We're not that club. We're not a club that needs sympathy. United, when you get knocked down again, it's Chumbawamba time. You get back up again. That's what United need to do. We're playing the bloody violins through the media. Like, we're not that club. We're not that club that cries and moans and gets violins out and starts wanting sympathy for crap performances. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Really interesting. We've played 11 games under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've got 17 points. This is his 3rd season. These are the standards. This is really interesting. You know how we talk about standards? Play Donny in the final. It's already starting. Mikel Roach. Well, it's Donny or Bellingham. Anyway, we can debate the team before the game on the stream. But look, let's get back into reality. This will evidence the standard dropping at United. You know the standards have dropped anyway, but this will evidence it. Right, so Ollie's got 17 points after 11 games, yeah? He's dropped nearly half his points. 33 points maximum, we've got 17, so he's dropped 16 points already. Nearly half, virtually half. Mourinho, in his 3rd season, at this point, after 11 games, had 20 goals. He would be 5th in that season right now, and we would be 6 points off the top. At this point, people were wanting Mourinho out. Out. Get out, Mourinho. Same as Ollie. People wanted Mourinho gone at this point of his final season. 11 games, 20 points. Ollie, 11 games, 17 points. So Mourinho was 3 points better than Ollie, and everyone wanted him out. Get out. He'd just beaten Juventus as well away from home in the Champions League. Get out of our club. Get out. He was doing well in the Champions League. Get out. Get out. Don't shut the door on the way out. Shut the door on the way out. Crazy. Heard this on TalkSport. Deitch said that Tarkowski is a better defender than Maguire and Ramos. I feel like I'm crazy hearing it. So, Mourinho got the sack after 5 more games. Less Liverpool. He had 26 points when he was sacked. Right? 26 points when he was sacked. That's 9 points than Ollie's got now. For Ollie to be on the same points Mourinho was when he got sacked, Ollie needs to take 9 points from the next 15. That means he needs to win 3 out of the next 15 points. Just to be on the same as Jose. Now, I think he should go a little bit better than that, but it just shows you Ollie's going to be roughly around what Mourinho had when he was sacked. And yet we're still persisting with it. To me, the echoes between Mourinho and Ollie are, the only difference is Mourinho didn't score a goal for us in the 99 final. They are so similar. I would argue that some people would say Mourinho, the football was a bit better than Ollie's. Some people would say Ollie's is a bit better. I mean, at the end of the day, both football was crap. You know, defensive, counter-attack, whatever you want to say. But the reality is, they both finished second. They go into a big season, and they both have failed. Ollie is literally Mourinho in his third season, but we're like, give him the full season. And that to me is why, forget the Glazers for a minute, forget the media for a minute, forget the players for a minute, look at the fan base for a minute. We as a fan base are victims of that board, because what they've done in 3 years since Mourinho is they've changed, they've dropped the standards. You know, people want Ollie out, but I look back to 3 years ago. Ollie has got less points than Mourinho had 3 years ago, and it was relentless. Get him out of our club. Gary Neville, Ferdinand, Scholes, all on the telly. This is not acceptable. They weren't saying sack him, to be fair, but they were saying, it's not acceptable, playing like this, blah, 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 blah. 3 years ago. 3 years later, we haven't got that from the mainstream media ex-players. And in the fan base, it's more of an acceptance that Ollie needs to go. It's not a demand. The standards have dropped at this football club. They really have. And as I said, Mourinho had more points than Ollie at this point, and you know he was gone. How, Mark, do you think the Glazers are taking a leaf out of the Kroenke's book and backing Ollie just like Arteta, no matter the cost and reputation of the club? Says Karan. I'm not having this. There is Arteta. Look, I wanted Ollie to be better than Arteta. There is no. I'll get clipped by Arsenal fans now. There is no comparison between Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Arteta. I always wanted there to be one. I want United to be better than Arsenal. But when you take Arteta away from Arsenal, take Ole away from United, stick them together as coaches, there is no debate who is the better coach. Arteta spent years as Pep's assistant coach. That's coaching. Arteta is a coach. Ole, in his own words, doesn't coach. He's the manager. He doesn't coach the team. Arteta is a proper coach. And if you look at Arsenal now, it's took him a couple of years, but he's actually rebuilt that Arsenal team. He's even changed his goalkeeper. Leno's not a bad goalkeeper. He's brought his own goalkeeper in. You can predict Arsenal's team pretty much every week now, bar one or two players that he rotates. You can see his shape, you can see his system, and they're reaping the benefits of that. So there's no comparison between Arteta and Ole, because Arteta has a plan and is a coach, and Ole, really, 3 years later, nobody's really developed as a player. The style of play is still a massive question mark. Nothing has really developed under Ole, and there's no comparison really. Watford had 10 days to train and United 0. Don't be surprised on a Watford win, says Daniel. And hi Mark, I have to give it to the thick owners. We have Ole is the perfect manager for them. He allows them to play mental warfare with the fan base, says Akil. Has Bruno signed the new contract? He wanted board commitments, but it went quiet since Ronaldo bought him. I doubt Bruno will stay if Ronaldo leaves, says Marcus Laird. The thing is, I think he will sign a contract. I don't really get that focused on players signing a new contract, because at the end of the day, if Bruno's on 100 grand a week at the moment and he can't leave till next summer, and he signs a contract now that gives him 250 grand a week, he's earning 150 grand a week, isn't he? So I think money will talk on that. I think that there will be a signing there. I mean, we'll be looking towards Watford towards the end of the season, end of the week. You know, we will do that. But look, let's focus on the here and now. I think, as I said, this Solskjaer situation is going to continue on. The club have acted, you know, really, really poorly. And you know what? I think the club need to be very, very careful. They think they're having conversations with, you know, well, the Manchester United Supporters Trust about a share thing. That came out yesterday and it wasn't received well at all. I've had loads of people messaging me about that, privately, emails, you know, WhatsApp groups. People are not happy about that shareholding thing. The general consensus is, well, what percentage are the fans getting? Because it looks nothing like even 30%, let alone 50%. You know, the protests were about getting the Glazers out or getting half of the club. You know, that doesn't look like that's happening at all. What's this fans advisory board? Who's on that? What's that got to do with the wider fan base? So there's a lot of things that could go really south for the club very quickly. And one of the things they know that always gets things back on track is the way the players are doing on the pitch. And that is not on track either. So there's always a direct correlation between United doing crap in the transfer window and Glazer out movements, or United not performing on the pitch and Glazer out movements. And at the moment, they need to be really, really careful. They need to be very, very careful. And Fawaz says it's not even 10% that they're going to get, which is, well, you know what? We wait and see what's going to happen with that, like I said last night. But, amongst all that, spin, they'll keep spinning those plates, of course they will. Andy Cole came out today. Sky Sports reported it. Andy Cole, another legendary striker of Manchester United through our Sir Alex Ferguson years. Played with Ollie in '99. Club ambassador. Comes out. He is a club ambassador as well. He's like Schmeichel. They do. Brian Robson's the same. They're club ambassadors. They would never say. I always think when United players like that, who I respect. I mean, Brian Robson, bloody hell. But they're club ambassadors. They'll lose that role. They have to say something positive. I almost feel bad even talking about what Andy Cole said, because what do you expect? He is a club ambassador. And basically what he's come out and said is that, the situation with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the criticism he's getting is unfair. I mean, all I'd say to that is, it's just another ex-player backing another ex-player. All I can say is, in the last 30 years, hundreds of managers have lost their job for not being good enough. This has got nothing. I said this yesterday. This is just sympathy. Andy Cole won a treble with Manchester United. He won league titles with Manchester United. If Sir Alex Ferguson hadn't been the coach and we'd put somebody in charge like Ollie, who was a nice guy, we wouldn't have won nothing. It's the hypocrisy of let's stand by Ollie because he's a nice guy. He's not a good enough manager. That's all it's about. All it's about. Call out people who start calling him bloody Gollum or Schmeagol or stuff like that because of how he looks. That's disgraceful. That's victimisation. That is abuse. That's not acceptable. But saying he should be sacked is not wrong. It's not unfair. Saying his tactics are rubbish, saying he's not good enough to be a United manager, that's nothing wrong with that. This sympathy vote that's, polluting Manchester United Football Club at the moment, it's tiresome. And no United fan, no matter where they are on the whole, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I don't like that. No United fan wants a sympathy vote. So why are we sympathy voting our manager? I mean, at the end of the day, that Andy Cole article, God knows where it came from. God knows who was interviewing. I saw it on Sky Sports. But at the end of the day, he's a club ambassador saying that it's unfair, the criticism that Ollie's getting. Well, maybe Man United should come out and say that, because it's nonsense. It's not unfair. If you break it down, anybody who says that the criticism that Ollie's getting is unfair, hold on a minute. We don't need to be Michael J. Fox. We're not going back to 1985. We're going back to 2 weeks ago where we got humiliated by City in third gear. Or 2 weeks before that, where Liverpool came and annihilated us. Criticism is not unfair when you have standards about where this football club should be. I guarantee you, if we'd gone to Anfield and beat Liverpool 5-0 there, and then we'd switched off for the last half an hour because game was over, do you think Liverpool would be there going, it's not fair to criticise the manager? This is just spin, and it's boring spin. Mark, who would you say are our top 5 fastest players in the squad? Mohamed, I don't actually care, so if the chat wants to talk about it, that's fine. Talking about more other things, but also just picking up on that, it's very similar as well. Mainstream media, basically, this to me is, I have to mention this because we've spoken about this so many times. So again, I think it was on the TV last night or something like that. So I'm going to call it mainstream media because you've got ITV, BBC, Sky Sports, BT, so, collectively call them the mainstream media, newspapers as well. It's been a real, you might not have picked up on this if you don't live in the UK, but it's been a real subject of conversation in the mainstream media for the last 4 days. Since Roy Keane called out Harry Maguire for going like that after scoring a goal, he said it's embarrassing, he's been useless for United over the last few weeks. That's now been called out as bullying. Oh my God, what are they trying to do to this world? What are they trying to do to society? So now Roy Keane, the most decorated Premier League captain in history, Manchester United's best captain arguably ever, somebody who gave blood, sweat and tears for this club, is not allowed to say a current United player is embarrassing. What? That's bullying? I think he comes from the most experienced position on captaining Manchester United of anybody. But that's bullying, according to the mainstream media. I just can't be arsed with this. I cannot be arsed with this. If I was Harry Maguire, I'd be embarrassed. I'd come out and put a statement out and say, look, at the end of the day, I haven't been performing to the level I need to perform, and Roy Keane's somebody I've got massive respect for. I aspire to be someone like Roy Keane. That's what he should be bloody doing. You know, somebody said today, could you imagine Roy Keane when he was playing, if he'd put in a load of shit performances and then one of his family members started defending him on Twitter? He'd go mad. Like, this is not bullying. It's not. It's calling somebody out for not being good enough. But you know what? At the end of last season, I don't live up Roy Keane's arse. Like, as a player, I loved him as a player. As a pundit, he gets some things very right and he gets some things very wrong. And when he gets it right, I'll say, yeah, he's spot on. And when he gets it wrong, I'll say, he's wrong. Because that's human behaviour. We don't all get everything right. But at the end of last season, Keane was getting on my nerves. He was constantly going in on David De Gea. Was that bullying? Or is that because he's a Spanish goalkeeper and not an England player? Because Paul Pogba as well. Is it not bullying when they constantly go on about him? Or Martial? Or Bruno? Or Fred? I mean, he was going mad about Fred after the Manchester derby. Is that not bullying? Of course it's not, because Fred was crap. And so was Maguire. But because it's an English player, you get this bloody bias, which is boring the tits off everybody, I'm sure. It really hurts to see that my legends are helping the destruction of the club and standards that they played key parts in building. Really hurts, says Gabriel Noel. Well, it's obviously a real struggle to, you know, some people obviously put the club, their mates before the club. That's obviously what happens, it really, isn't it? Mohamed is not having a refund because you've spoken about Mohamed 100 million times. All right, let's answer the question for Mohamed. Who's the 5 quickest players at United? I really give a shit about this, so I'm just going to say Harry Maguire, David De Gea, Juan Mata, Nemanja Matic and Ollie. They're the 5 quickest players. There you go. Justice for Mohamed. I've answered the question. Blanc will come in. Previous contact with the board. Share agent with Ronaldo. French as Pogba and Varane. For squad for 4-2-3-1 offensive football, says Per Arne Coles. I'd take Laurent Blanc. I would take Laurent Blanc. I seriously would take Laurent Blanc at Manchester United, but I don't think they'll go anywhere near that sort of thing. Apparently, they don't want an interim again. They want somebody to come in permanent. I think that's a nonsense, by the way. I really do. I think that I think United pretend to be a football club, and we've seen that for 16 years. So I don't trust them. And when you hear leaks about United don't want to sack Ollie because they don't want another interim, that's a load of nonsense. Imagine if we get the easiest way to call out nonsense is to create a scenario, right? So United play Watford on Saturday. This won't happen, but United play Ollie. They're sticking with Ollie. That's their decision. We play Watford on Saturday. We get beat 4-0, and we're crap. They've got to sack him, but they won't, because they didn't sack him after Liverpool and they didn't sack him after Man City. So you go to Villarreal, you lose again, 2-0. They won't sack him because they got Chelsea. They lose to Chelsea, they get beat 5-0. They'd probably have to sack him then, and they'd probably go for an interim. So their hypocrisy is noticeable and tangible, because we don't want an interim, yet you'll get an interim when you decide to sack Solskjaer. Like, the reality is, it's not. They haven't sacked Solskjaer because they haven't got. There's nobody available. They've decided not to do it because there will become a point when they have to do it, which is why they should have done it already. But they're choosing not to do it because it's all about that. It's all about pounds. And what they also know as well is, and I was talking to this guy about this morning. I was talking about the interim situation and what would an interim be, and what I was told is, well, for an interim for United would be remove Solskjaer and put Fletcher there, supported by Carrick and McKenna and Phelan. But obviously, the fans aren't stupid. How can you sack Solskjaer, who says, I'm not the coach, I'm just the manager? How can you sack him and keep the players who are keep the people who's the coaches in charge? Sacking Solskjaer on his own is not changing the situation. It has to be a clear of house, and that's why United aren't going for an interim at the moment. Martial, Ronaldo, because if you think about it, when we sacked Mourinho and brought in an interim, we only really replaced Mourinho because Carrick and McKenna were already working under Mourinho. So, it was easy just to change one or two. A says, Martial, Ronaldo, Sancho front three is the most balanced and will get the best out of Ronaldo, in my opinion, as Sancho, Martial have good awareness and are unselfish too, says A. Well, you know what? I think that, these are things that we may well discuss ahead of the Watford game moving forward. But one of the things I always found hilarious about not hilarious, when you laugh because you don't want to cry, about the Sancho situation is that statistically Jadon Sancho's defensive work for a winger is one of the best in the Premier League when he's actually played in the Premier League. Now, one of the things that gets levelled at Greenwood and Rashford a lot is that they don't help out their fullbacks, but Sancho does. Now, if you look at the Liverpool game, one of the big reasons they annihilated us is because we basically played with a front four. You've got Bruno, Ronaldo, Rashford, Greenwood, and they didn't help the fullbacks out, and they got overlapped, as we saw with Trent numerous times. Now, if you did play Sancho on the right, he is going to help Wan-Bissaka out because that's something that he's proven to be done. He does do it. He did it for Dortmund, and he's done it in the times he's played for United. So it's always been illogical to me that you spend £74 million, which is a lot of money, on a player, and then you don't use them. But then secondary to that, he's also the hardest working winger we've got. And that's exactly what United need at the moment. So it's baffling. When you talk about Martial, if you think about Martial a couple of times last season, and I think he's done it before, Martial on the left-hand side actually does track back and work hard. There's this ridiculous bias again. There's this myth that Martial is lazy and that people, let's use an example of Rashford. Rashford's used to track back a lot. I think since he's had his injuries, certainly over the last year, you don't really see Rashford tracking back anymore. Probably he's been told not to be fair to Rashford, because he certainly can do it. But Martial has always been pretty good at tracking back. I've seen him in the left-back position numerous times. So, A might be onto something there. Martial and Sancho as the left and right players probably work quite well because they do support their fullbacks defensively, and also offensively they're good. And they're very good. The thing I like about Martial and Sancho is that they're positional players. Like they're not really individualistic players. And of course we've seen Martial score individualistic goals, but they work in a system. I think they're system players. But Ollie's obviously refused that. And look, I've got nothing against Rashford and Greenwood. I think they're fantastic. But my problem with Rashford and Greenwood is not with them. I don't think Rashford and Greenwood have learnt the positional abilities that people like Sancho have, because they've not been developed. White Owl is laughing at Martial tracking back. I mean, maybe people in the chat can, verify this, that Anthony Martial certainly has tracked back quite a lot when he's played on the left-hand side. I think Martial's major problem comes when he's played up front, but as a left-sided player, he does track back a lot. I've seen Martial tracking back further than Luke Shaw loads of times when he's played on the left-hand side. The fact is, he hasn't really played on the left-hand side that much. This is quite interesting as well. I don't know whether Levin mentioned it this morning, but this is quite interesting. Oh, can I just say as well, spin. I mean, this makes me throw up. We've been linked to De Jong this morning. Why do people put what? If you're a United fan, why would you do that? Why would you start getting involved in that? Because you're just falling into the trap. De Jong, can you not see what this is all about? Koundé yesterday, De Jong today, crappy sources, and people are like, it just deflects you away from what the problem is. We've had this problem at this club for 15 years. Yes, we've bought some good players, but for every good player we buy, we will be linked to 20 others that we won't get. And De Jong to United. Look, I know Barcelona are in a lot of problems at the moment, but Barcelona probably will still get top four. We maybe not. Why would De Jong come to a Europa League Manchester United side? So, you got to think about stuff like this. But it's De Jong, it's Kessie, it's Koundé. I've seen more and more of it over the last few weeks. It's De Jong of Barcelona they're talking about. But Yeah, it's just spin, spin, spin. You know, that to me is just old regurgitated news. But I saw something from James Ducker in the Telegraph that within the United squad, I found this one quite funny because I always try and look at things from both sides. So within the United squad, there's bemusement at the lack of time for Jesse Lingard. And I thought, well, I got to say, look, it's very easy to moan. It's very easy to moan at the moment because there's a lot to moan about. But I disagree with that story. You know, I don't understand why there's bemusement that Lingard's not been picked. Because where's Lingard going to play? You know, I think sometimes a story comes out and it's like, oh yeah, look at Ollie, he's a bloody idiot, he's not using Lingard. But then I go, Lingard's big problem was not going to West Ham. I don't think Lingard should be starting for United. I think if we start Lingard against Chelsea or Watford or anything, I don't think it makes us any better. That's not the problem with United. It's not the lack of time for Lingard. It's not the lack of time for Donny. It's not the lack of time for Sancho. The problem with United is we're picking good enough teams. They're just tactically inept. But I disagree with that. You know, if that is true, United players are bemused that Jesse Lingard's not playing more football. The only place Jesse Lingard can play in that team is in Bruno's position, and I wouldn't start. It's like saying, would you start Greenwood up front over Ronaldo? No, I wouldn't. I like Greenwood, I like Lingard, but I wouldn't start him over Bruno. And you're certainly not going to play him on the left-hand side when you could play Martial or Rashford, and you're not going to play him on the right-hand side when you can play Sancho or Greenwood. So I think that Jesse's been misled. I think he's been offered game time, and I think I agree with him. He's got every right to be pissed off, but I don't see where the game time comes for Jesse, to be honest. And I don't know why people would be bemused. And I think, look, in a time where we're all very frustrated, I think we also need to keep on a level playing field here and not become too sensationalist. Oh yeah, it's a joke that Jesse's not playing. No wonder the players are bemused. What did we say at the start of the season? Why is Jesse staying? I can't see where. Even if we were top of the league, I can't. We all said it. Well, most of us said it. Where's he going to get game time? There was never a clear path for him to game time. There wasn't. And you know, even if he starts Jesse against Watford in the number 10 position, you're going to bench Bruno for how long? Like, you create more problems. So you're going to bench a player who's out of contract and can talk to clubs in a month for a player that you're trying to get to sign a new contract who's a better player. And this is where I think, you know, sometimes you've got to be a little bit level playing field, because I think, you know, obviously people go, oh, you know, these fan channels, they're all just so negative. Well, actually, we're not. We actually do digest an issue and talk it through. And I think on this sort of thing, you know, you compare it to Van der Beek. Mark, what happens if we get a new manager and we do crap? Will you scapegoat the new manager? Ollie needs time to gel our new squad because of Ronaldo. Rash, I think you're talking crap, but well done. If a manager comes in and they don't perform well, Rash, they don't get scapegoated. What? So, Rash, this is just a troll comment, but whatever. There might be some idiots who believe what you're talking about. So, Ollie's not being scapegoated, Rash. He's took 4 points from 18 and he plays crap football. That's not being scapegoated. Have a look on the dictionary. That's not scapegoated. That's being not good enough and getting criticised. If another manager comes in and replicates what Ollie's done, they will get criticism, because they know what, in entertainment, that's what happens. But going back to what we were talking about before, Daniel says, I tried to order the Bruno Christmas jumper and could not get extra small. Is it sold out or something? Says Daniel. I don't know. If it's not available, it's not there, mate. I don't know why that's the case there, but I'll have a look at that afterwards for you. But yeah, you know what? If you look at Donny van der Beek, he should be playing more time for United. McTominay and Fred are crap and have been crap. So yeah, Donny van der Beek should have played more games. There is a genuine reason for the fans to moan about that. You could say the same about Matic as well. You could say the same about Pogba when he was fit. Pogba, Matic and Donny should have had more game time comparable to McTominay and Fred, who seem to start every week and have been poor. In the case of Jesse Lingard, I don't buy that one. I don't. I like Lingard. I think he's a 20 minutes off the bench player. I'm surprised Ollie stopped using him as that, because it has worked. It worked against West Ham, but he's not a starter. And as I said, if you start Lingard for United, you're going to have to bench Bruno. Well, then you're going to get a shitstorm, because Bruno ain't going to sign a new contract, and he's better than Jesse, who still might not sign a new contract anyway. The problem is, and where I sympathise with Jesse, is that he was getting 20 minutes off the bench and doing quite well, and now he's suddenly not. That doesn't make sense. Also, he's probably been offered promised first team game time, and that's not happened. He should have gone to West Ham in the summer. It's as simple as that. Ronaldo hasn't disrupted the team, Rash. It's as simple as the fact that we'd be out the Champions League if we didn't have Ronaldo. So, you know, that's all I say to anyone who starts. Bruce just cut his own hair and says it looks good. Okay. Yeah. Whatever anybody says about Ronaldo, the reality is you just say this. If we didn't have Ronaldo, we'd be back playing Thursday night football, because nobody scores that header that he scored against Atalanta to win the game. And nobody scores that goal in Atalanta to draw the game. So instead of having 4 points out of Atalanta, we'd have 1 point and they'd have 4 points, and we'd be in the Europa. So it's as simple as that. If you want to blame Ronaldo for Ollie still being a job, technically that's probably true. I don't think Ollie would be in a job if we'd lost to Atalanta, but you know, Ronaldo is a goat. You know, sue him. You know, he's going to do. Ronaldo does what Ronaldo does. He scores those sort of goals. So, yeah. Ollie's back. He's back. But look, over the next 5 games for United in the league: Watford, Chelsea, Arsenal, Palace, Norwich. Got to get double figures out of that. And that's not a stretch. Got to get double figures out of that. Watford, Chelsea, Arsenal, Palace, Norwich. You know, could get 13 out of 15 if we drew with Chelsea. Realistically, you've got to be getting at least 10. Beat Norwich, Watford and Palace and draw with Arsenal, lose to Chelsea. Even that's not great, but he's got to do that. And that to me doesn't keep his job. Can I just say, we're playing Watford, Chelsea, Arsenal, Palace and Norwich. Even if he won all 5, that doesn't mean he's the man for the job. And I think you've got to be... I'm going to say this right now so people can remember I've said it, right? If we win our next 5, don't start knocking on the chat door saying you've got to give Ollie another chance. No. I stand by what I said before. I will never be Ollieing again until he holds the Premier League title in May. And if he doesn't do that, I'm right. You know, the standards at the football club are winning a Premier League title. I'm not getting behind Ollie because he goes and wins 10 games in a row. Because he's done that. He did that when he came into the job. He did it more or less last year after Istanbul. We know he's capable of grinding out a 10-game unbeaten run. We know that, especially with the players he's got. Of course he is. The standards have got to be higher than that. We need good football and we need major trophies. And he ain't going to deliver those, is he? With Pogba being out, does Donny have any chance as Daniel Kirk? I think he will get some game time. I wouldn't be stunned if he started against Watford. I said this before. I think that, you know, with the way things are going, Ollie needs to try and win friends and influence them. And how do you do that? You start picking Sancho. You start using Donny a bit more. I mean, look, I'd play Matic and Donny against Watford. I can't, but I also understand what everybody else said, and I said it before the Spurs game. I didn't want him to pick Donny and Matic after Liverpool because it's reactionary, and that's not what a manager should be. A manager should stick to their principles. Really, it should be McTominay and Fred against Watford because that's what he's been doing for the last year. But I wouldn't be surprised if he changed it. Mark, will Ollie stick to a back 5 and start McFred, says Surab. Well, I don't think he should be playing a back 5 against Watford. No, I don't. But there you go. Look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Please do tune in. I'll be going live from just after 3:30 on Goldbridge TV on Twitch. It's Europa League final. I'm going to get my suit. I'm going to iron it. Manchester United against Chelsea on Goldbridge's FIFA career mode. Kicking off at 4 PM UK time. So just over an hour. Goldbridge TV. I'll be tweeting it out off at Mark Goldbridge. Get yourselves on the way. Get ready. I need the support. I want at least 5,000 watching this epic final. 4 o'clock. Also, Christmas jumpers, if you want to get them, links in the chat or it's pinned in there as well. We do ship worldwide. But yeah, very excited for this career mode. Will Ronaldo start or Martial? Let me just indulge me for a moment. So my FIFA career mode, I have still got Ronaldo, but Martial has been playing well. So it's Martial or Ronaldo up front. They've been at it all season, those two, and then it's Van der Beek or Bellingham in the midfield. Or do you drop Tchouaméni and try something new with Bellingham holding the midfield? We'll see. Anyway, tune in for that. Thanks for Styles joining the members club, and we have got an 8 o'clock show tonight as well. So I'll speak to you all in a little bit, but hopefully I'll see you on the final at 4 o'clock. Goldbridge TV on Twitch. Give me a follow, and you should get your notification. Or at Mark Goldbridge, I'll be tweeting it. Speak to you all in a bit. Take care.